Now, remember earlier on, Kalonzo Musyoka said we don't have an IBC. Here, the chair of the IBC selection panel says we're just waiting for resources. People have shortlisted, we can't gazette it because there are a couple of impediments. Just briefly, Wakili, your review on the IBC issue as you bounce off what the other guests have said.
I think the stakes are usually too high in our elections. And that's why sometimes IBC becomes like this so important thing to every other person. But why it is important is because we have not allowed our elections to be system run, they are people run, such that what the IBC commissioners announce or what the returning officer is announcing is the most important election outcome. I told you, if you look at what Brazil is doing, that every time they create their election system, they throw it out to hackers and they tell them, go and try and hack this, and then we shall give you a reward for any person who is able to hack. We are in 2022, 24 now. We are looking at going into an election in 2027 that is purely dependent on some people sitting in a primitive classroom in 2027 and counting pieces of paper.
Even with all the checks and balances,
and I have
he says Form 34A,
and I have asked myself, anybody who has a bank account or an M-Pesa in their phone, you don't sleep with 1,000 shillings and wake up in the morning, it's 910 shillings, not unless you had borrowed from Fuliza. Your money remains 1,000, Bob. And if we can trust a system as simple as M-Pesa with our billions of shillings that is transacting through those phones at night, if we decide it is possible for every person in 2027 to vote from the comfort of their bedroom, we don't need those queues. We don't need. In fact, the system would tally them and count them, but because we don't want a transparent election, and because we do not want an election that gives us the best candidate and the correct candidate, and because we want to control who will be president in 2027, we bring this nonsense of printing papers from abroad. Ask yourself, Tanzania here, that is not, and we keep comparing ourselves with them and saying they are behind us. I don't know where he's behind, because those people print their own ballot papers and they run their own elections. We run the most expensive election in the whole world. I mean, the cost of voting per Kenyan is too high. The cost of even maintaining IBC or commissioners in these countries is too high. So sometimes I even refuse to discuss the constitution. I start discussing what kind of brains were Kenyans given. Because I think that's the conversation we should be having. What kind of brains were Kenyans given that are so unique in the whole world? And we are the ones who are comfortable with having the most expensive election per person in the world. And the rest of the people have a problem and they're looking at us and wondering, we can't even print our own exam papers.
I think it points to the trust deficit we have in the election process.